Okay, good morning and welcome to yet another Adrenalin Shot. And today my guest is Alan Miltz. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Dawn.
A bright and early start for both of us here, I'm thinking.
Yes, and I'm definitely dressed a little bit casually, but please excuse that.
That's all right. What I like to see is someone who actually looks after themselves because, hey, if we don't look after ourselves, we're no good for anyone else, are we?
Exactly correct.
All right, so let me introduce Alan to the listeners today. Alan is the co-author of the Verne Harnish book, Scaling Up. And Alan, I believe you wrote the financial component of that book.
That's correct.
Okay, and then as a founder of Matrix, Alan developed a financial analysis techniques that have become a global standard for businesses, CPAs and banks around the world. And those techniques are now being used in some 30 countries by over 20,000 customers and leading banks. And in the USA, Alan's got about 300 banks who've implemented these techniques to review company performance. In Australia, back close to home, Alan's assisted a large number of Australian companies to successfully raise debt finance from the major financial institutions to around 1.4 billion to date. It's a pretty impressive sum there, Alan. Alan's also a speaker for the Executive Connection, Entrepreneurs Organisation and YPO, and he's spoken in various countries around the world, ranging from the USA, Tokyo, Berlin, and at Cambridge University in London. So I'd like to welcome Alan to the call this morning. And Alan, we're going to start off with one of your favourite sayings, and that is that business speaks Spanish and banks speak Portuguese. Help us understand what that means.
So I'm not a banker by trade, but I've advised business and I've advised banks. And every time I walk into a business and I speak to the CEO, they talk non-stop about their profitability. And if their revenue is growing and their profit is growing, the CEO is typically ecstatic. The bank looks at your numbers slightly differently. The bank looks at your cash flow as measured by your capacity to repay. So I say we speak Spanish, we speak about profit, and your bank speaks about capacity to repay. And in my opinion, the cash flow of your company is a far more accurate measure of how you're performing.
Yeah, and I'm convinced of that now. I was lucky enough to hear Alan speak fairly recently at the Executive Connection here in Perth. And you know, what you said made so much sense. You know, it's all very well just looking at revenue, but if the cash flow isn't there, then you're really one moment away from disaster, aren't you?
Exactly right. And a story of numbers is told over 4 chapters.
I remember that.
Chapter 1 is your profit, and we are fantastic, and your company typically understands your profitability. Yep. Equally important is chapter 2, your working capital, your receivables, your inventory, or your work in progress in a service company, how you pay your suppliers. Some companies have invested in chapter 3, your other capital, your fixed assets, your investments, and the result of a business is chapter 4, cash. So if you look at chapter 1 and you think that's your story, you're missing chapter 2 and 3, and therefore you don't understand chapter 4. And if you understand the 4 chapters, you understand cash, you therefore understand your bank. And that's the message I'm trying to push globally. Become a 4-chapter storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the questions that you've put to me here is if we had to choose one financial analysis technique that would help us improve, you know, profit, cash, valuation, what would that be? Or is that the story?
So, Dawn, in my opinion, everyone's overcomplicated the process. There are 7 variables you can change as a company. You can change in chapter 1 profit, your pricing, your volume, your cost of goods or your direct costs in a service company, the way you manage your overheads. And in chapter 2, how quickly people pay you, your inventory or how quick quickly you invoice the client, and the way we collect or the way we pay our suppliers. There are 7 levers, and I call them the power of one. This is the code of your company. How many 1% or one-day changes do you need to make to the way you run your business to improve profit, cash, and hence your valuation? And sitting on the scoreboard of every business around the world should be their power of one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I was so excited about the tool that you shared with us that you've developed, where people can literally put in that one, whether it's a percent or a day, in a spreadsheet, and it changes all their numbers for them so they can see the effect of that power of one. Do you want to tell us a little?
Yes, absolutely. So I've created a product called Cashflow Story, and Cashflow Story is aimed at the executive team of a business. Every 3 months, I would recommend that your business enters your numbers and looks at the full story, the 4 chapters, which is resulting in the power of one. And every 3 months at your management team, you should have a power of one discussion with your marketing, operations, financial people, and say, how many changes can we make to the way we're running the business? Your business is no different to a sporting event. If you don't see the score, you don't know what's going on. And your score is not only your profit. The result of your business is your cash flow, which is chapter 4. The way you fix your cash is using the power of one. And in all the boards, I sit on 15 different boards, and on every single board I sit on, this is a mission critical process.
Absolutely. What perfect timing. Did you hear the clock go?
Yes, I did, Dawn.
That was a brilliant short bite of what Alan will talk about if you ever invite him to speak for your organization. And have a look at Cashflow Story, because it really is a powerful tool and a very affordable tool, I thought, as well, Alan, for small businesses. And I know I've recommended it to a couple of people within my tech group because, you know, as you say, they don't know what they don't know. They're focusing on one set of numbers, but they don't realize that they've got this other problem at the other end and what to do about it.
Exactly. The biggest danger is what you don't know. And cash flow is a major blind spot in business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you speak again, because I think your presentation is one of those ones that it wouldn't matter if I heard it 4 or 5 times. I'm going to take something new from it every single time.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thanks, Alan.